Rob Nobles over there. He's on the red-green Devotion deck. He's playing against Martin Goldman-Kirst, who we saw on camera last round.
Rob Nobles is on the Colossal Gruul list, Mahara's deck list, I think almost card for card from the look of it. Maybe a couple sideboard changes, but the main deck I believe is exactly the same.
So this is one of the harder matchups for Esper Control. AJ and I were saying Esper's a great answer to the mono blue deck. It's kind of where you want to be this week in the metagame. But we were wondering whether or not Colossal Gruul is where you want to be next week, if Esper does really well today.
Sure. Looks like tap lands for both players again, and Martin taking a shock and passing.
Shock and pass. I love that. One of the plays I really like out of Esper Control.
Yeah. I imagine we'll see probably just a cycle of Azorius Charm. That's been business as usual in my experience with Esper. Maybe he has like an actual card.
Rob's going to go ahead and develop his mana base here. So with Voyaging Satyr, immediately draws a Doomblade from Martin. He's just on the all 1-for-1s plan.
Yeah, that shuts down Rob's ability to go into a turn 3 Xenagos, which is really, I think, where he wants to be in this matchup. It's one of his best threats, right? Yeah,
he's a little landlight right now. His hand is a Nylea, a Mistcutter Hydra, a Xenagos, and a Grook. So he actually he needs a land before he can keep playing. He's going to cast Mistcutter Hydra on 2 and swing it. That's not normally where you play the Hydra, but I think because of the rest of his hand, that's why he's playing it right now.
Yeah, the rest of his hand costs 4 mana, and it's going to take him multiple turns to play it out. He's suffering the effects of a mulligan to 5. He's land light and threat light, and he's going to have to just get his cards onto the board however he can. Like, he's the aggressive deck. He can't just let Martin get all these draw steps. He knows if Martin just keeps making land drops, eventually a Sphinx's Revelation will functionally kill him, even if it doesn't do it literally.
Well, Rob didn't hit a land for that turn, but he hit the next best thing. He hit a Domri Rod.
That is the next best
thing.
Yes,
which is probably the best card in his deck in this matchup. Granted, with this draw, it's a little underwhelming. It will get creatures off the top of his deck, though, if they're there. So it means it'll actually, in a roundabout way, help him draw to a land.
Domri is actually a pretty effective tool for finding mana, as strange as that sounds, considering most people consider it a way to find creatures.
Yeah, he hit a Polukranos that turn, so now he has another uncastable card at the moment. And MGK decides to tap. He taps out for a Jace and pluses it. He had the option of Detention Sphere and chose not to.
I think he's looking forward to going into Detention Sphere with Essence Scatter up next turn, probably, so he wants to just make more efficient use of his mana at the cost of giving Rob basically a coin flip at a creature, right?
Yeah. Alright, so Rob's going to try to take another creature. Domri ticks up, and it shows a Nylea. So 2 for 2 now in the Domri. Rob has a pretty stocked hand.
Unfortunately, all those cards cost 4 mana.
Yeah. And if the game goes late enough, it's not going to matter how many cards are in Rob's hand, the Esper Control deck will pull away.
Yeah. I think that makes me like Martin's line a lot more. He really is just concerned about answering Rob in this position where he knows he actually has a large edge. Rob can't deploy everything that he needs to.
Yep, so Mistcutter Hydra goes ahead and swings at Martin rather than at the Jace, and he follows up with Sylvan Caryatid. So a roundabout way of playing land, but it is a land.
Yep. Looks like Martin may actually be lacking a 5th land himself, so he'll be Jacing for it, and we'll see how Rob splits up the piles.
Yeah, and
wow, that's pretty healthy.
Yeah, so it's a good. I think if you're Martin, you want the land more than you want the Verdict.
Yeah, a Verdict here would also be pretty devastating to Rob. As you see, he puts the Verdict off to the side by itself. He doesn't want to have to rely on drawing a 4th land. He's hoping to get that Sylvan Caryatid to live a turn so he can actually cast one of his other spells.
Yep. So Martin Detention Spheres the Domri on 5. 2 cards was enough off it. Leaves up 1 mana, and is going to pass. Now here's the difficulty in the matchup for Esper, is that every card in red-green hits really hard.
Yeah.
And Martin's deck has the answers to all of it, but he just has to play answers as fast as Rob plays questions, which can be very hard for the Esper deck because red-green is so capable of casting threats.
Rob has made a Satyr here. He can remove Jace, which, if Martin couldn't really chance taking 2 life, to hold open his Essence Scatter, because, what if it was Xenagos, which is exactly what it was, and he already knew that could very easily come and get him. The Essence Scatter was protection against the Nylea and the Polukranos, which he already saw, so it's interesting that he decided to not take the 2, since he knew 100% that there were Essence Scatter cards in Rob's hand.
Yeah.
As it stands, it looks like he's going to actually get to Essence Scatter then, based on the way this game's going to play out now. He can Detention Sphere either the Satyr token, which obviously would not work out, or just the Xenagos itself, and then hold open Essence Scatter for the creature.
So this is the same problem we saw when Cedric Phillips lose to Nick Verall in 3 games in the same matchup. where the Esper player has all the answers in their hand, but just can't seem to play them fast enough. You know, a lot of the Colossal Gruul's cards have haste, or stick around. You see that a Detention Sphere on the Xenagos, leaving up an Essence Scatter. So Martin has things somewhat under control here.
Rob draws a Nykthos.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a lot of devotion running now. It's pretty much just a land. But considering the situation Rob was in, a land is actually pretty welcome.
Yeah. Land's pretty good here. He's going to go ahead, go to attacks. He's going to put MGK down to 9. Remember, we'll see how he plays around this Essence Scatter here, if he has a way to do it. He could do something, really cheeky, like just play Voyaging Satyr and see if it gets Essence Scattered.
He's going to go with the Nylea. I actually like jamming the Nylea because it's the most resilient card against a Verdict in this spot. And obviously, if Martin were to untap and Verdict, you don't want to just invest more. This board is actually already pretty heavy incentive to cast a Supreme Verdict for Martin. Yeah,
Martin has, with that draw of a Doomblade, he now has he just wants to be efficient with his mana. So he has at 2 mana, he has a Doomblade. He also, in that 4, he has a Verdict and a Jace. He's going to go ahead and go for the Verdict. I think Extra Storm because it hits the mana source here.
Yeah. Fortunately for Rob, most of his hand does cost 4, so that land he drew does let him continue to go. He draws another land, and it's another Nykthos, which is not what he wants.
So we'll see Polukranos, World Eater, hit the table for Rob. And now here's the opening that I think MGK wanted. He gets to untap with all his lands to an empty board thanks to Doomblade, and that gives him time to press some card advantage. Yeah,
pretty much the dream situation, especially because it looks like he has a land and a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand. But he's going to go ahead and continue pressing forward with Jace. Jace neg 2, not scared of another hasty threat, just interested in the cards.
Yeah, so we see Pithing Needle, Thoughtseize, and Godless Shrine. I really like how Needle and Thoughtseize work in this matchup. And I'm saying, I still think Esper has to just play answers really quickly, so I really like that MGK boards in all these one mana cards to try to compete with red-green.
Yeah, the cards definitely pair favorably with one another. Thoughtseize removes a threat and lets you know what you need to needle, which is huge.
Yeah, so Thoughtseize reveals the Nylea, the second Nykthos, the Voyaging Satyr, and what I have to assume Martin will take in the Garruk.
Yeah, the Garruk is clearly the most threatening card in Rob's hand, even if he can't cast it yet. The Voyaging Satyr means he'll be able to cast it likely on the following turn, not this turn. And the Nylea is borderline nothing at this stage in the game. Rob is so far behind on cards, it's going to be difficult for him to trigger Devotion just on pure quantity.
Yeah, well, the big thing is that MGK has a Detention Sphere in his hand, so you can let your opponent resolve a Nylea and then Sphere it. It's something you don't want to do with Garruk because he could still potentially play Garruk and draw 5 cards immediately.
Yeah. Definitely the biggest issue. The group can actually maybe dig Rob out. As is, Rob just has to use his draw step to get out each and every time.
So Rob's drawn an interesting card on the sideboard. He's drawn a 1-of Polis Crusher in this matchup.
Wow.
It's amusing because Martin's hands right now is a Detention Sphere.
Yeah.
Which that doesn't work at all. But yeah, so Polis Crusher, I believe something that is not in Mahara's list.
I don't know personally. It seems like a very sweet card.
Yeah, it's
especially
good here.
In this matchup specifically. It can't be sphered, and it affects spheres rather negatively. If you see, when it becomes monstrous, destroy target enchantment a player controls. Martin's got 2 enchantments. They're both good.
Well, it doesn't destroy it when he becomes monstrous.
When it deals combat damage.
Yeah, so it becomes
monstrous.
if you played back with, was it that Simic 2/3 Trigon Predator? It becomes like that guy when he becomes monstrous. But it's better because he's a 7/7 trample, so he probably gets through.
Martin goes for a Desperation neg 2 on Jace to find an answer to the Polis Crusher, and he finds the best possible scenario. He finds 2 answers. Rob is forced to split one of them with a land, and that's exactly what Martin takes. Continues to make land drops, accelerating towards the Sphinx's Revelation.
Which he already has.
Yeah.
So this looks like he's going to get there. We will see, though. Rob draws Burning Tree Emissary. So Burning Tree, really interesting in this deck because of how it increases your devotion.
It's also an excellent card to play alongside a Nykthos that's in play. You can go from nothing to activating your Nykthos rather effectively.
Yeah, so he's going to tap 2 for Burning Tree Emissary and Voyaging Satyr. This means next turn he has a lot of mana available.
If he draws a sweet card to do something with it, that would be pretty good. Martin already has a sweet card. He has that Sphinx's Revelation. I imagine this turn he's going to be firing it for 6, right?
Because of all the mana that Rob just put out on the table, Martin might take this turn to Thoughtseize. You have to be careful because that red-green deck can create so much mana.
Yeah. The Nylea is a fine catch with Thoughtseize, and I guess he could... Did he know the Nykthos was still in hand? Yeah, he did. So he knew those cards were there. So he Thoughtseize specifically to get the Nylea. I don't know if I like that.
We see a draw of Storm Breath Dragon from.
That's a sweet one.
It's a pretty good draw. Rob's in. That's very scary for him, actually. This could be it represents a lethal attack.
Yeah, he attacks for 7, and Martin's going to have to Sphinx's Revelation to stay alive. But he will live. He gets to draw 5 cards, right? Yeah, so he goes to 10.
He goes to 10, then we'll go down to 4. So Martin's going to need another Supreme Verdict. He's already gone through 2 of them. 5 cards is great, but we'll see if it's enough.
I think I probably would have wanted to take advantage of the new Legend rule here and get in for an extra point with my Voyaging Satyr. Just go ahead and pitch that Nykthos after tapping the one and play for mana. Play the new one, right?
So tapping one, play for mana. Oh yeah, play the new one just for an extra mana. Yeah, he could have put him down to 3. I think that 3 and 2 are pretty much the same number right now. What's actually... No, actually, what this lets him do is because he now has a devotion of 4 to red, he can monstrous the dragon
double
next
monstrous
turn.
the dragon. I think if we untap with the dragon, we win though, basically, right? Like, if Martin has a Doomblade, he's not going to be silly and just let him untap with it.
You probably won't let him untap with the Doomblade.
No,
even if he
knows
does,
the Nykthos is there. He saw it.
Yeah.
Multiple times. I mean, to be fair, it is a mistake he might make, and it's an easy one to make.
Yeah. If he does make that mistake, that'll get him pretty, because then, he'll swing with the dragon and Martin can't really remove it. I think what Martin drew was another Revelation, which Storm Breath is excellent. Leaving the monstrous mana up from Storm Breath is excellent against that.
Yeah. The problem is he can't actually float the mana correctly through combat. Like, he can use combat to force. So he's going to actually need to be able to use Nykthos to activate, which he has exactly that in play by using red.
Enough to do it in combat?
Yeah, now he can do it in combat with red mana using Voyaging Satyr, and you see Rob has counted that out exactly as well. He leaves it up.
Yep, so Sphinx's Revelation, and this is...
He can let that resolve and then go monstrous. Yeah. Depending on how much Martin taps for it. It looks like Martin is wary of that and is going to leave open enough to use Hero's Downfall. Should he have it or should he draw it? So that puts Rob in a really interesting spot. Because I think you just have to do it now, right?
Well, right now, how many cards are in Martin's hand right now?
Well, right now, it's still enough to kill him, I'm pretty sure. He's at 4.
Well, not to mention that the dragon turns into a 7/7. I think this is lethal damage for Rob.
Well, the thing is, it's much more likely that Martin will find a Hero's Downfall within the cards he has and the next few cards, or that he has it, he doesn't have it now. So I think you just go for it. Yeah. That's what I'm of the mind.
And with that untapped land, he does have 7 mana here. So that's 4.
This is 4.
So remember, the way to count, we were talking before about how to count Nykthos mana. Basically, Nykthos taps for 2, and the Satyr taps for 2, is the way you can think about it. So that, right now he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So he had 1, he did have it without the land.
Yeah, you're right, actually. He did have it. He goes monstrous in response.
So it's a 7/7, so he's doing it in response. Yep.
And Martin, it appears, just checked the top cards to see if he would have got there. And yeah, he realizes that he missed it. I believe he's thinking, I should have just revved on my turn, and then I can't get got this way.
Then he can't get got
Which
this
is exactly what we were saying. Is Martin going to let him untap there? He knows the Nykthos is there, and yeah, he's beating himself up for it. He's like, yeah, I had it. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I made the one mistake I had to make.
All right, so Rob Nobles, 2-1, defeats Martin Goldman-Kirst, keeping himself live for top 8.
Tight play on Rob's part. I like how he played that game. Funny enough, Rob and I actually go way back. I knew Rob when I was a wee child.
So Rob is
Florida.
So he's originally from Florida.
He was in Florida. I don't know about originally.